Today I am on a mission to see how cheap we can start a furniture flipping business for. My husband and I first bought our house, this house that we're in right now. We moved from a 1-bedroom apartment. We didn't have extra furniture to fill this house. So I grabbed a piece of furniture off Facebook Marketplace for $25, flipped it. We used it in our bedroom for a little while, and then I flipped another piece for another $25 because I loved how the process went and I loved everything that went into it. And I turned around and sold it for $125. And that was my first piece I ever sold. It was laminate. It was just a ranky-danky little thing. And seeing that $100 of profit was like a game changer for me. That's like what lit my fire in furniture flipping. So I took that profit, turned around, bought an actual sander, bought another piece, and just kept going. So today we're gonna try to do the same thing. I am gonna use the bare minimum materials. I bought this dresser for $25, and we're gonna try to flip it and see what profit we can get, and then walk you through how to start a furniture flipping business from the ground up completely. So for starters, I got this piece off Facebook Marketplace. It was $25, so right away we're out $25, but I am doing this in my garage. I have now been furniture flipping for 3 years, and I've done it all out of my garage. I don't have any overhead. I do have a storage unit, so I guess that's a little overhead. But that's not needed at all. So we're doing it from our house, and if you don't have a house, that's okay. I have plenty of friends who do it in their backyard, in their side yards, in houses they rent. I have a friend that started by furniture flipping on her apartment balcony. So you can truly do it anywhere. So typically when I'm finding pieces to flip, I like to find more of a modern style. Now everybody's gonna be different, but for where I live, people like a more modern style. So something like this dresser where the legs are lifted up off the ground, these usually sell really well. This one, you can see the legs aren't lifted and it's not lifted up much off the ground, so there's not much of a base. It's a little too many details. My local followers really like just modern style. So we're gonna clean this one up and modernize it. But again, it was $25. I wanted to find the cheapest piece I could, but you also can find pieces for free. So do not underestimate the power of driving around on like bulk pickup day or trash day. I can't express the amount of pieces that I've picked up from the side of the road, and they're free. So right away you have zero loss. And I'm gonna be keeping a running count of everything we use so that I can get an accurate price at the end of how much we actually put into this first furniture flip. Now the first step in every furniture flip is to clean, because this is gonna remove all the gunk and grime that is on your piece from either the previous owners or sitting in a garage or storage unit for who knows how long. And already that's one light pass and you can see all that dirt coming off. Now some people may hate me for this, but I'm gonna take off these little wood details because I know details like this don't sell well in my area. So although I may think they're cute or other people may think they're cute, if you're trying to flip furniture for a business, you have to do what is gonna sell. I like to take the drawers out when I sand just because it makes it easier to get in all of the cracks of the dresser, and it also makes it easier to sand down the drawer fronts when they're just laying flat. This dresser smells like my grandma's house. Sorry, Grandma. Now that everything's taken apart, I am gonna paint this piece, so I'm only gonna go in and scuff sand. And scuff sanding is just lightly sanding a piece so that you can give the primer or the paint some teeth to grip onto. It basically takes away all the shine of the piece and then also evens out any minor nicks and dents that are on the wood. You can really use any kind of sander when you're gonna be scuff sanding or sanding a piece completely down. Some of the brands that I recommend, Hart has an amazing cordless sander. They sell at Walmart. Ryobi also has one, DeWalt has one. So those are all great options. A lot of them are under $100, but you can also find ones that are easily under $50. And another great tip is if you need tools, but you don't want to pay full price, get on Facebook Marketplace and look for tools on there, or even now that it's starting to warm up, go hop around some garage sales and you can always find tools. For this piece though, I am going to be using my Surf Prep sander. So this is a sander that also hooks up to my vacuum. Frankly, I paid a lot of money for this sander, so I like to get my use out of it. But for my first 6 to probably 8 months of furniture flipping, I used a rigid sander, and that got me through easily the first 8 months until I saved up enough. I bought this Surf Prep sander, and it was an investment, but I do use it every single day. So a lot of you may know that I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I work only on furniture flips during my daughter's nap time or after she goes to bed. Today I had expected her to nap, and I was gonna try to get like at least 70% of this dresser done, but she is refusing to nap today, so I'm gonna flip you around and show you one of my favorite toddler hacks for when I need to get work done. If I need to get work done, oh, she tipped it over. I will bring her out here and fill up her bowl with some water, give her a paintbrush, and she loves to just sit here and paint the floors. Now that everything is sanded down smooth, we're gonna go in and prime our piece, and priming just gives the paint something better to adhere to. It helps fill some of the grains and nicks a little bit better, and it also just provides a good smooth and overall finish for the paint to stick to. There's a ton of different types of primers, but I like to use this spray can because it's super convenient, it's super affordable. I think it's only about $11, and once it's done, I can just throw it away and there's no cleanup. Everything is primed, and then I went back over and lightly sanded again with a 400 grit sandpaper across the drawers and the actual dresser base, just to make sure it was super smooth and ready for paint. And then I grabbed 2 paint colors, and I let my Instagram audience actually pick the paint color, and they chose green, which is great because green actually sells really well in my area. So I am gonna paint it this green. Typically when I'm painting furniture, I use my paint sprayer, but because we're trying to keep this first furniture flip to start your business super cheap, I grabbed a Purdy paint roller, and this is one of my favorite paint brands because everything just goes on super smooth and gives you that perfect overall finish. Also, I ran out of paint trays, so a super cheap way to make a makeshift paint tray is to take a paper plate, plastic plate, and put tin foil over top of it. So that's what we're doing today, which is even better because it's even more cost effective. And for today's color, I am using Hazel by Lily Moon Paint. As you can see, this did not get fully covered off of just one coat of paint, so we're gonna go in and do a second coat. Okay, I'm gonna be so honest with you right now and tell you that I am miserable painting this right now because I hate rolling on paint and hand painting. I didn't used to hate it, but now that I have my paint sprayer, it is so much more efficient, and that's another great way to flip furniture quickly because the amount of time this is taking me to roll this entire piece, I could have had like 3 coats on this, just doing 1 coat on it rolling. So if you want to be more efficient, I highly recommend investing in a paint sprayer, and I will go ahead and link my favorite one up above. Now that all the paint is dry, we are going to be using this Varathane water-based polyurethane as a top coat, and I always add 2 to 3 coats of top coat on top of my flipped pieces because it just helps with durability, it helps with protection, and it just helps to make your piece last for years to come. And the reason I really like this top coat in specific is because it's water-based, so it's extremely easy to clean up, and it also goes on very easy with a paintbrush, a roller, or a sprayer. So we're keeping this super cheap again and going back in and using a paper plate to roll on our top coat, and I like to do 2 to 3 light coats. So you just want to go slow to make sure there's no bubbles. That's also why you stir your top coat and don't shake it, because it will create air bubbles. One of my favorite tips when rolling on a top coat is, as you can see, when I started it, it was kind of splotchy and the roller was kind of jumping a little bit. You can easily even all that out by putting on all your top coat and then going back over it very lightly to just even out the entire coat. This is why I need a house with a detached garage or a workshop or something, because I don't know if you can hear it in the video, maybe you can, but I told my husband I was recording out here and now he's mowing the front lawn. Granted, this is like the only time this weekend he can do it, so I'm not mad, but it's just funny. It never fails. So again, I do this out of my garage, so I try to minimize the background noise. I try to minimize the cars driving by, but it is what it is. I just finished the first coat of the top coat, so I'm gonna let this one dry, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do coats 2 and 3, and I will catch up with you guys after that. Top coats 2 and 3 are finished, so now we are gonna move on to the final step, and this step is completely optional, but because the drawer fronts are so just plain and basic, they do have little lips that you can grab to pull them out. But I wanted to spruce up the front a little bit, so I grabbed these 10-inch handles from Amazon, and locally people love the green and the gold knob handle combo. So I'm gonna throw these on. To do this, you can get little templates basically for the handles. When I first started, I just eyeballed it, I measured it out perfectly, but today I am using my true position measure. I don't know what to really call it, but basically you put it on the top, you measure out the height and the width of it, and then you just center it, and you can move it up and down, side to side, so you always know your holes are perfectly centered and level. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to buy a dresser if your handles are gonna be all funky and wonky, and it just makes it look so much more professional when they are on there even and centered. So now we are gonna stage this piece to sell, and in my opinion, this is arguably one of the most important steps in flipping a piece of furniture that you want to sell, because your listing photos are going to either make or break your sale. And you don't have to get super fancy. I just grabbed this basket from our living room with a blanket we had. You can just kind of drape it out to bring a little bit of softness into the picture. And then this vase with some fake florals that we had on our entryway table. Here are 2 photos side by side. One of them is this dresser not staged, and one of them is staged. So I just want to show how big of a difference and how big of an impact staging can make on your photos. One is edited a little bit lighter with an editing app, but in general, when you're listing your photos, you want your audience and the potential buyers to imagine it in their own space. So if you're just putting up a picture of a dresser in a random garage, they're never gonna be able to imagine it in their home, versus putting it up against a white wall that makes the piece stand out. And if you don't have a white wall or anything, that's okay. There are actually a million AI apps nowadays that you can put backgrounds in photos. So I know some people that do that, but I built a makeshift wall in my garage because I got tired of carrying pieces in and out of our house. So now I can just put them right up against this wall, but it makes a huge difference, and you want your client or your potential buyer to imagine it in their own home. So stage it like that. So now I'm just gonna go in and take some photos for the listing photo. I like to get a bunch of different angles, that way the potential buyer can see all the different angles of this piece before they come and pick it up. It's always good to get some close-ups of the handles as well. Right now in total for this furniture flip, we are at $189. Now, generally, my rule of thumb for flipping a piece of furniture for profit is to get at least double what we put into it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and round up to 200. So my listing price is gonna be 400. And that is to take into account that people on Facebook Marketplace are always going to undersell you and come in lower. Now, even if I were to get 300, I still made over $100. And say I sold it for only $200. We only profited a little bit, couple dollars, but then you can take that couple dollars, buy another piece of furniture, and now you already have all of these materials like the cleaner, the sander, the sandpaper, wood filler. Maybe you have to buy primer and paint. You can reuse rollers. Most of the time you'll have leftover top coat, and you can buy new handles, but you will already have all of these materials for your next flip. So you already have all of those materials and some of those tools that you needed to get started on your first flip for your next flip. So your first flip, you may only profit $10 or you may completely break even. That's okay, because then you can take that, turn it into another piece, and just keep going and keep building. And each piece you do, you're gonna make more profit off of. So let me show you guys again the before of this dresser that we got for $25. And now I'm gonna go ahead and list it for 300 or so. And in the description, you wanna make sure you put the dimensions, where you're picking up, or if you offer delivery. If you offer delivery, that's a great way to sell your furniture, because a lot of people don't have a truck. And put the color so people can look it up, and always just have good quality photos in the listing. So here's how we started a furniture flipping business for under $200 with our first dresser. And I'll see you guys next week for another furniture flip.